We stepped forward, not because we were ready, but because we had reached a point where standing still was no longer an option. The door ahead of us looked no different from any other in the guild. Worn wood, iron hinges, the kind that had been opened and closed by countless hopeful hands. But this one felt heavier, like something weighted just beyond it. Something we had been circling without realizing. Jonas exhaled quietly beside me.
If it's not them, this is gonna feel really stupid.
I didn't answer right away. The thought had crossed my mind more than once during the night. But putting it into words made it too real. Yeah, it will. We both knew it wouldn't just be stupid. It would be something worse. The door opened before either of us could say anything more. The room was simple, almost disappointingly so. A long wooden table stretched across the center. A few chairs placed with practical intent, and a narrow window letting in pale daylight that didn't quite reach the corners. 3 figures waited on the other side. The feeling from before returned instantly, stronger now that there was nothing left to separate us. The one in the center met our gaze first, a human, dressed in worn leather that had clearly seen its share of travel. His posture relaxed but deliberate. He didn't need to move much to command attention. Ren. To his side stood a taller figure, half-elf, wrapped in muted greens and natural fibers that looked more grown than crafted. There was a quiet steadiness to him, something rooted and unshaken. Soren. And the last, a half-orc, leaning back just enough to seem at ease without ever fully letting his guard down. A worn instrument rested against his side, as practical as the rest of his gear. Elias. None of them reacted, not yet. But the air between us felt tighter than it should have, like something was already beginning to shift.
We'll keep this simple. What motivates you to join a long-term party?
His voice was steady enough to settle the room without effort. It was a standard question, passed from one applicant to the next with predictable answers. Gold, glory, experience, and survival. All of it true in its own way, and none of it quite enough. I found myself hesitating, not because I didn't have an answer, but because none of the usual answers felt right anymore. And before I could speak, Soren shifted slightly, drawing just enough attention to change the rhythm of the moment.
One more thing. If you woke up somewhere completely unfamiliar, what would you look for first?
The question landed differently. Jonas didn't hesitate.
People we knew.
The room grew quiet. Not in a way that drew attention, but in a way that focused it. Elias leaned forward slightly, resting his arms on the table as he studied us more closely.
And how would you know it's them?
There was something in the way he said it. Not suspicion, not curiosity, but recognition waiting for confirmation. I didn't think before answering. Inside jokes. That was the moment everything shifted. Ren's gaze sharpened almost imperceptibly, while Soren stilled completely, as if any movement might break whatever fragile thread had just been pulled tight between us. Elias tilted his head slightly, watching us in a way that felt far more personal than anything before. Then Bren spoke again, slower this time, like he was choosing the words carefully.
Pineapple on pizza?
Jonas inhaled sharply beside me, the sound cutting through the silence. I let out a short breath that turned into a quiet laugh. Absolutely not! For a second, nothing happened. Then everything did. Soren's composure cracked first, a grin breaking through like it had been waiting just beneath the surface.
Yeah, that's them.
Elias let out a breath that turned into a small, disbelieving laugh, shaking his head.
Figures.
Brett didn't even try to hide it.
It took you fucking long enough.
The interview ended without anyone saying it had. There was no formal conclusion. No closing statement. Just a shared understanding that whatever this had been supposed to be, it was no longer that. Jonas stepped forward, disbelief written plainly across his face.
No way.
Elias was already standing before the words had fully left him, the chair scraping back behind him as he closed the distance in a few quick steps.
That's what I was thinking.
That was all it took. The space between us disappeared as if it had never been there at all. Placed by movement, by voices overlapping, by the kind of uncoordinated laughing chaos that only comes when something impossible becomes real. Hands found shoulders, armor knocked together. Someone swore under their breath while someone else laughed too hard to speak. That recognizable laughter. It was just the same as before the accident. As if nothing had happened. Soren was the first to step back, though not far. His eyes moving between us like he was making sure we weren't about to disappear again.
2 years. I've been here 2 years.
Bren nodded, folding his arms loosely.
Closer to 3 for me.
Elias ran a hand through his hair, still smiling in a way that hadn't quite settled yet.
I showed up late, as usual.
We just got here. Same place, same time.
Lucky.
We didn't stay in the room long after that. There was nothing left there for us. Nothing that mattered more than the fact we had found each other again. The formalities passed in a blur. Names written, parchment stamped. Words exchanged with the clerk that none of us would remember later. Because our attention was somewhere else entirely. The tavern felt warmer than the guild. Quieter in the way that made it easier to breathe. 5 chairs gathered around a worn wooden table. 5 mugs set down with uneven thuds as we settled into something that felt both unfamiliar and completely natural at the same time. For a while, no one spoke. We just looked at each other, as if taking too long to look away might somehow make it all disappear. Elias was the first to break the silence, lifting his drink slightly.
Well, we are either incredibly lucky or this is going to get complicated fast.
The laugh that followed came easily, not forced or held back. Just felt right. The stories slowly followed after that. Not as a single conversation, but as pieces shared between moments of quiet. Soren had wandered for months before finding anything that felt stable. Learning the world one step at a time without knowing what he was looking for. Bren had taken work wherever he could find it, moving from road to road, always continuing forward even when he didn't know why. Elias had played music in places he barely remembered, asking questions that didn't make sense to anyone else. They had all been searching, even when they didn't admit it. Even when they didn't understand it themselves. Jonas leaned back slightly, his expression thoughtful.
And the name?
That drew a quieter kind of attention. Bren exhaled softly.
That wasn't planned.
It just felt right.
Like something we were supposed to remember.
Jonas looked between them, the word already forming before he spoke.
Veir.
It settled into the space between us as if it had always been there, waiting to be said again. Bren nodded once. Soren repeated it quietly under his breath. Elias smiled.
Yeah, that's the one.
Jonas rested his arms on the table, looking around at all of us.
So, what happens next?
The question lingered, not heavy but important. Soren answered first, his voice steady.
We don't split up.
Well, we figure things out together.
Elias lifted his mug again, a hint of humor returning to his voice.
And maybe we try not to die the same way twice?
This time the laughter was loud, less disbelief and more understanding. I looked around the table, at each of them, at what we had somehow found again, despite everything that should have made it impossible. The world still didn't make sense. None of it did. But this did. We had each other, and whatever came next, whatever waited beyond this moment, we wouldn't be facing it alone. Together, we had found something we hadn't even realized we were still holding on to. And this time, we weren't going to lose it again.